In the days that followed, the apartment felt like a ghost of its former self. Alex's absence was a palpable void, but not one of loss. Rather, it was the gaping hole left by a carefully constructed lie. David retreated into himself, spending long hours at his gallery, working late, seemingly trying to outrun the pain. When he was home, he was quiet, lost in thought, occasionally staring blankly into space. Emily tried to be understanding, but she also felt a deep need for them to process this together, to rebuild their sense of security. She found herself constantly checking the locks, jumping at unexpected noises, her sleep still fractured by vivid, unsettling dreams. The sense of being watched, once an abstract fear, now felt like a haunting reality. Alex might be gone, but his presence, or rather the trauma of his deception, still lingered. One evening, Emily decided to confront the lingering unease. She suggested they redecorate Alex's former guest room, cleansing it of his touch. David agreed, but his heart wasn't in it. As they cleared out the room, Emily found a small, almost microscopic, pinhole camera meticulously hidden in the corner of a picture frame, facing the main living area. Her blood ran cold. This wasn't just about money. This was about surveillance. Alex wasn't just stealing their finances. He was stealing their privacy, their lives. She showed it to David, who stared at it with horrified realization. "He was watching us," David whispered, his face pale. "All this time." The discovery added another layer of chilling betrayal, deepening the sense of violation. The idea that their most private moments might have been observed, recorded, and sent shivers down their spines. The initial shock of the financial scam now seemed almost secondary to this profound invasion of their sanctuary. Alex's sinister game had gone far beyond what they had imagined. The tiny pinhole camera, no bigger than a ladybug, shattered any lingering illusion that Alex's betrayal was simply about money. It was a cold, hard piece of evidence that his actions were deeply malicious, born from a desire for control and invasion. David, who had seemed to be slowly emerging from his initial shock, recoiled into a deeper, more profound sense of violation. The idea that their intimate moments, their private conversations, might have been recorded filled him with a quiet rage. "He was always so meticulous," David muttered, turning the camera over in his trembling fingers. "Always paying attention. I just thought he was a good friend listening." His voice was heavy with self-recrimination. Emily wrapped her arms around him, her own fear mingling with a fierce protectiveness. "It's not your fault, David. He's a psychopath. He weaponized your trust." The police were immediately informed about the camera. They were grim-faced. While it added to the evidence against Alex, it also confirmed that his intentions went beyond mere financial fraud. They suggested Emily and David have their apartment swept for other hidden devices, advising them to change all their passwords, even for seemingly innocuous online accounts. The idea that their digital lives might also be compromised was a new, unsettling layer of vulnerability. A professional team arrived the next day, sweeping their entire apartment with specialized equipment. They found no other cameras, but they did detect sophisticated spyware on David's gallery computer, and even on Emily's personal laptop, software that could log keystrokes, access webcams, and track their online activity. This discovery sent another wave of terror through them. Alex hadn't just been searching for bank details. He had been meticulously mapping out their entire digital existence. "This is chilling," the technician said, shaking his head. He had full access to almost everything. Emails, documents, even your webcams could have been activated remotely. Emily felt a cold knot in her stomach. Every casual conversation, every private moment in front of their computers could have been compromised. The police elaborated on Alex's background. He wasn't just a con artist. He had a history of escalating psychological manipulation, a pattern of getting under the skin of his targets before exploiting them. The financial scam was a means to an end, but the deeper satisfaction for Alex seemed to come from the power he wielded over others' lives. His connections to Mark Jensen, the former embezzling employee, were also deeper than initially thought. Jensen was not just a fellow scammer, but Alex's loyal subordinate, completely under his influence. This new information provided a terrifying clarity. Alex wasn't just a criminal, he was a sociopath. And his obsession with their lives, particularly Emily's, felt deeply personal. The old unease that Emily had felt before his arrival, the one she couldn't explain, now made horrific sense. He had been studying them, cultivating their trust for months, if not years, before his physical presence ever darkened their doorstep. Emily started receiving strange, anonymous emails. They were seemingly harmless, vague messages about art or design trends, but they contained subtle, almost imperceptible references to conversations she'd had or details about her daily routine that only someone with intimate knowledge of her life would know. The sender's IP address was masked, untraceable. They were unsettling, whispers from the shadows that hinted Alex, even from behind bars, might still have a way of reaching them, or that someone else connected to his network was watching. David dismissed them as a residual paranoia from the ordeal, but Emily knew better. This was a new form of torment. The path ahead was far from clear. It twisted into deeper, darker woods. Casual mention of a specific coffee she'd bought that morning, a cryptic comment about a project she was working on, or a seemingly innocuous reference to a minor disagreement she'd had with David, details too precise to be mere coincidence. David tried to reassure her, convinced it was just her mind playing tricks, a lingering effect of Alex's betrayal. "It's probably just spam, he'd say, or some data breach we don't know about. Let's not let him haunt us from jail." But Emily knew it wasn't. The messages felt too personal, too targeted. The phantom sensation of being watched returned with a vengeance. She started cross-referencing details from the emails with their daily lives, the events that only she and David would know. There were too many specific correlations. One email mentioned a particular brand of obscure artisanal chocolate she'd bought only once on a whim from a small boutique she'd never mentioned to anyone. Another alluded to a peculiar phrasing David used during a private phone call with his lawyer about the gallery. These weren't random. Someone was still watching, still listening. Emily, fueled by a simmering anger that replaced her fear, decided to take matters into her own hands. She contacted a cybersecurity expert recommended by a friend, discreetly, without telling David, fearing he'd dismiss her concerns as overblown. The expert, a no-nonsense woman named Sarah, took Emily's worries seriously, especially after hearing about the spyware and the hidden camera. Sarah put a robust monitoring system on Emily's devices, designed to track any unusual activity or attempts to access her information. A week later, Sarah called. Her voice was grim. "Emily, I've got something. These emails, they're being sent from a secure, encrypted server. But there's a pattern in the metadata, a faint digital fingerprint." She paused. "It's not Alex directly. He's in prison. But the connection leads to someone very close to him. Someone who has maintained access to his network, and critically, someone who knew his methods, knew what to look for." Emily's heart pounded. "Who?" "Mark Jensen," Sarah stated. "David's former employee. The one who was involved in Alex's scam. He's sending them from a remote location, using a highly sophisticated setup. He's not just Alex's subordinate. It seems he's the one executing Alex's revenge from the outside." The revelation was a gut punch. Jensen, the quiet, almost unremarkable employee David had fired for embezzlement, was now their tormentor, a puppet of Alex's malice. It became clear that Alex, even from behind bars, was still orchestrating their misery through Jensen. He hadn't just used Jensen for the financial scam. He had cultivated him into a loyal, perhaps even obsessed, follower. Jensen was executing Alex's precise instructions, designed to keep Emily and David constantly unsettled, to remind them that they were never truly safe. The financial fraud was just the first layer of Alex's twisted game. The true prize for him was the psychological torment. Emily shared the findings with David. He listened in stunned silence, the color draining from his face as the weight of this new, unseen enemy settled upon them. Jensen, he whispered, a name he thought he'd put behind him. He's doing Alex's bidding. The depth of Alex's control over Jensen, even from prison, was chilling. It proved that Alex's manipulation ran far deeper than they had ever conceived. This wasn't just a friend gone bad. It was a criminal mastermind who had infiltrated every aspect of their lives and was now orchestrating their psychological torture from afar. They had thought the nightmare was over, but it was just beginning, the stage set for a final, dangerous confrontation with the unseen puppeteer. The revelation that Mark Jensen was the unseen hand behind the tormenting emails galvanized David and Emily. Fear transmuted into a steely resolve. This wasn't just Alex's revenge. It was a direct assault on their peace and security, orchestrated by a man who had already proved his capacity for malice. David, no longer dismissive, was consumed by a quiet fury. "We need to put a stop to this." Permanently, he stated, his jaw clenched. Emily and David worked closely with Sarah, the cybersecurity expert, and also brought the new evidence to the police. The police, while taking the threat seriously, explained the difficulty of tracking Jensen given his sophisticated methods and the global reach of the internet. They advised caution, suggesting that direct confrontation could be dangerous. Jensen was a known associate of a dangerous criminal, but David and Emily knew they couldn't live under this constant shadow. Sarah devised a plan. They would set a trap, a digital lure designed to draw Jensen out. Emily, with Sarah's guidance, crafted a series of confessional emails to a fake, secure email address she set up, discussing her anxieties, her belief that Alex was still somehow manipulating them, and mentioning a critical new piece of evidence about Alex's scam that only she and David allegedly knew, implying it could destroy Alex's case. The goal was to make Jensen believe Emily was falling apart and to bait him into a direct, traceable action to protect Alex or gather more information. The bait worked. Jensen, obsessed with his role as Alex's protector and enforcer, took it. He sent a more aggressive email, demanding details about the new evidence, and, crucially, making a mistake. He accessed his encrypted server from a less secure, temporary VPN endpoint, attempting to quickly extract more information from Emily's fake email. Sarah, constantly monitoring, pinpointed his approximate location to a remote cabin in upstate New York. It was a risky, isolated place, perfect for someone trying to stay off the grid. The police were immediately notified. A small, specialized unit was dispatched. David and Emily stayed behind, their nerves frayed, waiting for the call. Hours later, the phone rang. It was the lead detective. "We got him," he said. Mark Jensen was apprehended without incident at the cabin. He had a fully equipped surveillance station, enough to monitor dozens of targets. He also had a lot of Alex's personal effects and a hidden communication device for prison visits. Seems he was Alex's outside man, executing his orders. The detective confirmed that Jensen would be facing serious charges, adding to Alex's woes as well. A wave of profound relief washed over David and Emily, so potent it left them weak. The immediate threat was neutralized. The unseen eyes were finally gone. But the experience had fundamentally altered them. The world no longer felt as safe, and trust was no longer as freely given. They knew the emotional scars would take time to heal. In the weeks and months that followed, life slowly began to resume a semblance of normalcy. They invested in top-tier home security, enhanced their digital privacy, and gradually, carefully, rebuilt their sense of security. Alex was convicted and sentenced to a lengthy prison term, largely thanks to Emily's initial discovery of the diary and the subsequent evidence uncovered by the police and Sarah. Jensen also received a significant sentence. One quiet evening, months later, David and Emily were sitting on their balcony, sharing a glass of wine, watching the city lights twinkle. "It's finally over," Emily whispered, a deep sigh escaping her. David reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "It is," he agreed, squeezing her hand gently. "But it taught us something, didn't it? About who we truly are and who we can really trust." He looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude and renewed love. "We got through it. Together." The path they had walked had been dark and treacherous, leading them through betrayal, fear, and a chilling confrontation with a twisted mind. But they had faced it, emerged stronger, and understood that while some roads lead to unexpected dangers, others, illuminated by steadfast love and resilience, lead to a deeper, more profound peace.